I'm Elliott Forrest from WQXR in New York City, and joining me now is Marin Alsop. She is the chief conductor of the Vienna Radio Symphony Orchestra, music director, as you may know, longtime conductor of the Baltimore Symphony and the Sao Paulo Symphony, and she is also the director of graduate conducting studies at Peabody Institute at Johns Hopkins University. Marin, always good to see you.
Yeah, it's great to be with you.
How are you coping during this very bizarre, crazy time?
Well, I mean, that's a complicated question, probably, or requires a complicated answer. It, I the first thing, of course, is that my heart goes out to all the people who've had to deal with having this virus, or who, especially the people who've lost loved ones. And not to minimize that by talking about my very privileged life indoors these few weeks, but uh, it's really um, it's really enabled me to have a reflective and introspective time to think about what I want my future to be like in terms of my relationship to the world, to the planet, to society. Um, so not to get too heavy on you, but those are the kinds of things that I've been really um, grappling with. And I had been running around the globe like an insane person, conducting here, there, and every other place. And I love conducting. I mean, don't get me wrong; I absolutely adore it. But I think it's a good moment to really reflect on what we have as a human race done to our planet, and whether we can really justify continuing that, just going back to that. So, I've been very encouraged by the small, tiny healing that the planet has come onto, and and I'm really thinking about how music can amplify those goals, particularly this year with Beethoven. This is a huge anniversary year for all of us as classical musicians. It's the 250th anniversary of Beethoven's birth. And, I had naively thought that would be sort of a defining factor of 2020. But as it turns out, of course, eh, in some ways, it couldn't be more appropriate, because Beethoven was someone who struggled, and he had to overcome so many challenges. He felt severely isolated from humankind because of his deafness. And yet he managed to endure and advocate for optimism, and unity. You think of his Ninth Symphony. No more this tone. Come on, let's all get together, and as one, we can create joy.
You announced, not connected to the virus, that you'd be stepping down from the Baltimore Symphony in this next year. You started in 2007. Can you reflect on your own legacy? What do you feel your mark has been on the Baltimore Symphony?
I'm extremely proud of my work with the Baltimore Symphony. Um, I've really, together, I think we've pushed the artistic excellence meter as high as we possibly could, trying to create uh, a distinctive sound, distinctive style, a real a real identity together. And I feel very, very musically very, very close to the musicians and to the orchestra, and especially to the community. I've loved living in Baltimore, and of course, starting the Orchids program with 30 first graders in 2008, and now we have 2,000 kids playing musical instruments. And so this is another great joy for me as part of my time here in Baltimore. And I it showed me that without huge resources, because Baltimore doesn't have the kind of resources that a New York or a Los Angeles would have, but without huge resources, one can really make a difference in a community.
Coming up on May 15th, PBS will be releasing the 2019 production that you did at Ravinia, Leonard Bernstein's Mass. This is a work you have done several times. You studied under Leonard Bernstein. You knew him. Why do you keep coming back to this piece?
It's an enormous privilege to work on Bernstein's Mass. I think it is his seminal work in terms of the narrative, and also it's so fantastically brilliant and so appropriate for today, because it's all about, Bernstein was a consummate storyteller. Anyone that knew him will tell you that, he loved to tell stories, and he was a great storyteller, and he'd stand up in front of an orchestra and say, do I have to tell you the story of this Haydn symphony? And all these, very jaded, mature musicians would say, yes, please, please, please. So the first thing, just to go back a little bit, is that when he was asked by Jackie Kennedy to write a piece for the opening of the Kennedy Center in Washington, he thought about, what distinguishes in most people's minds JFK from all other presidents? Well, of course, he was the only, and still the only, Roman Catholic president. So Bernstein takes the construct of the Mass, the outline, the skeleton, and uses it as a vehicle to hang this narrative about belief. What can we believe in? What's true? What should we believe in? Can we believe in ourselves? And so it's the journey of the celebrant, the priest. He's a blind believer, he believes 100%, and then he starts to be challenged by everything, by the challenges around him, by the war, by the, movement in the 1960s, 1970s, and all these people start challenging him, and he starts to doubt his belief. And there's an incredible cathartic moment where it's called the fraction, where everything breaks, and he devolves into this, this unknowing sort of person of complete vulnerability. And from there, he's able to find himself. And I think it's a beautiful message for today, because he finds himself through his younger self. And I think for many of us, this is an important message for today. Look back to what we valued when we were young. We valued relationships. We valued love. We valued communication. We valued play. We valued friendship. And I think these are the important things in life. And ultimately, that's the message for me of Leonard Bernstein's Mass.
Marin Alsop. Marin, I wish you so much success as you step down from Baltimore. There are new horizons in this challenging world that we find ourselves in right now. I always enjoy spending time with you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Elliott. Great to speak with you.